The drowsiness of the verdant field has taken its toll on you all. The heat is sapping. You all feel drained, exhausted, and you set up camp as the night closes in. The humming is intensifying. It's growing deeper, I'd say. You can feel it periodically on the bark of the trees, and as you lay on the ground, you can feel it reverberate through everything. And it's hard to ignore as you try and fight sleep. As the various harmonies of the woods echo around you, you all might mistake it for a soothing lullaby. Vero, what lullaby can you hear, and how did it soothe you as a child?
It's been so long since she was a child. I think she's forgotten all the words. But she does remember the melody. So, playing on a loop in her head, something like. Over and over and over again.
Macero, whilst you might not be able to pick out the particular melody of this lullaby, something about it brings you comfort all the way out here in this sticky situation. What is it?
I think it's the feeling of not being alone, the feeling of being surrounded by life and by warmth.
Maradi, struggling to sleep as always, gazing up through an opening in the boughs of the trees up above you, sorry. You can identify a constellation that you're familiar with. What's the name of this constellation, and how will it guide you home after this job is done?
The constellation is known as the Trench, and it is known quite well by those who work in militaries and in various fighting forces. It is of particular note because when sitting off top the hill and the Andrometian fortress can be seen brightly at most times throughout the year. And he knows, seeing this now, that anybody who might still be there is looking at it as well.
Very nice. As you restlessly look upon this for some kind of navigational guidance to draw some kind of comfort from it, you are disheartened to see the constellation dissipate, and you realize it was just a mirage of sorts. It was a buzzing collection of fireflies in the canopy, tricking you into thinking there was any way out of this place. And speaking of being tricked, it's also not nighttime. Who knows what time it is, but the sun is up, and the light of it has been blotted out by an immense swarm of bees that shift and move on. And Maradi, you're first awake. and you're awoken by the sound of marching. Chum, 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 chum. Through the soft canopy floor, you sit up with a start and you see something that you have expected but didn't perhaps believe. A line of bees, each the size of a mastiff, a big dog, marching in a column through your campsite. Antenna weaving this way and that, searching for intruders. And one of them notices you. You see its antenna flick in your direction. And it makes me think of a question, Maradi. How are you willing to debase yourself to make them ignore you?
After seeing the great moose passing by us not so long ago, and seeing that shimmering gold in its footsteps, Maradi couldn't have helped himself but to gather up as much of that honey as he could have. He was aching to taste it. And now as he sits and watches this bee, the only thing he can think to do is try and disguise himself as if he's part of the hive. And how much of himself can he put that honey all over to make it almost seem like the bee is just in another part of its home, and there's no one there, just another bit of the hive.
And it works to a degree. And the bee that noticed you rejoins the rank and file, shuffling through the forest, and another stops and secretes, vomits, steady flow of honey onto a nearby tree before moving on. Do you want it?
Even covered in this substance at this point, he doesn't feel sated at all, and grabs a container that he has nearby and tries to get over to this tree to scoop some of it up without being seen.
Very good. Macero, you awake to see mandibles inches from your face. There is a giant dog-sized bee on your chest. You don't want to call out. You don't want to move. You don't want to react in any way to startle this thing, because those mandibles are sharp and this thing is heavy. What do you visualize? What do you think about to try and remain still and focused and calm so that this curious monstrosity will move on?
There's nothing that Macero consciently thinks about. It's more of an intrusion into her mind. She kind of sees, as she keeps completely still, that suddenly she is not the one that is looking up, but the one that is in place of the creature that is cowering over her, the mandibles ready to grasp her at any moment. And she is thrown back in time almost to a moment where she is crouching in the same manner above someone that she loves and cherishes very much. And she can see in his eyes a fear, a hurt, and a panic of not understanding the situation. And then with the blink of an eye, she suddenly exchanges places again and sees herself in the same position that she was in before, the mandibles cowering over her, and in a sudden rush of panic, she understands that she was once the aggressor.
I like that very much. Make a ruin roll.
Oh, okay. All right. So I have 3 ruin. So this means that I will have to roll
1, 2, or
above.
3, it will stay the same. 4, 5, and
Okay.
6, it will go up.
Okay. And just 1 die, right?
Mhm.
I rolled a 6.
Oh, sweet Macero. I think this bee, it will move on, but it's left its mark on you. It regards your decorations, your offerings, and extracts the pollen, rubs up against you, takes what it needs, bumbles off into the background, rejoining the line. How did you end up feeling after that exchange where you swapped places briefly? Did you feel more in tune with these creatures, or did you feel more distinct from them?
I would say at this moment she would feel more in tune, and that is something that scares her. And she's now come to a conclusion, understanding that maybe her husband, Latro, wasn't taken from her by someone or something else.
Thank you. Vero, all this is happening. You wake up to see none of it. The patrol has moved on by the time you awake. Now, the 3 of you on this expedition, this incursion to try and recover either the mother of millions or some of this coveted royal jelly, each has a wax-lined sack that will help you bring your prize home. Now, Vero, as you're getting ready to move on, because neither of the others, I assume, will want to tell you what they've just had to do to avoid the attentions of the passing patrol, you realize that your sack has a tear in it, and it looks too clean a cut to be an accident. This was deliberate. This was an act of sabotage. Who do you think did it?
Vero, her eyes will dart between both of her compatriots. She doesn't fully trust either of them. It could be either. Perhaps both. Maybe they've decided to work against her. She starts to feel a bit of panic welling up within her. She feels her grasp, her control, if she had any, on the situation slipping away. She's going to keep her eye on both of them, even closer now.
And as you come to this morning, you can sense that there has been a patrol pass this way. And you kind of look down at yourself and look at these attempts that you've made to disguise yourself as a bee, and you credit that with perhaps the reason why you weren't disturbed. How are you going to, less subtly this time, enhance your camouflage?
Without really knowing why she's doing this, she'll rummage about to find the stinger that she had hidden away before. It's out in the open now, but if things are taking a turn against her, well, might as well put all of her cards on the table. So she's going to take the stinger and stick it to the back of her outfit.
Wonderful, thank you. As you're watching this happen, Maradi, something else is unusual about Vero this morning. It's not the dancing, it's not the bumbling around, it's not this strange thing that she's doing with the stinger. No, she's attracting a lot of smaller bees, and they are buzzing around her head in what, if you're not mistaken, looks a little like a halo or a crown. Why Vero? Why is she being chosen for this coronation of sorts?
In between attempting to scrape as much of the honey covering his torso back into his jars as he can, he looks over at Vera and tries to make sure that she doesn't catch him examining what's going on. And he thinks, there's no way we all came here together. There's no way that she could be so connected to this place, right? Unless she came from here, right? If the bees know her so well, if they're willing to surround her like this, they ignored her during the night, right? I didn't see them go towards where she was sleeping. Is she really one of us? Or is she just another one of their tricks?
Macero, you see this thrumming crown also. Will you bow to this queen?
I don't think I will. I think at this point, Macero will come to a conclusion that she's been dreading. And that conclusion is that she's been brought here to be punished for what she's done. And both Vero and Moradi are her punishers. And if she bows now, she will succumb. But she wants to fight it. She doesn't want to believe that what she's done is real. So she will gather her strength and she will remove her children from her veil. And once again, she will try to cast a ritual and focus it on Vero, the one she believes to be the queen of bees that she wants to eliminate now.
So what are you trying to do here? We're a little early for a contested role in the incursion, but are you trying to in some way undermine this strange coronation? Are you trying to dissipate the crown? What is it you're trying to do here with your spiders?
I think I'm trying to undermine Vero as she is becoming crowned. I'm trying to, or Macero is trying to kind of avoid Vero from becoming, or stop Vero from becoming more powerful than her.
Because she's already leading the expedition, right? She's the one who knows where you're going, apparently. So she's the one who's at the front every time. So yeah, this really can't stand. So this is going to be a risk roll. Once again, we will build ourselves a dice pool. You have got one light die for your skill of rituals, unless there's another skill you're trying to lean into. You can't stack them, but is there anything that's more?
No, I think rituals.
Rituals,
yeah.
So we've got one there. You obviously have a dark die in there as well because it's a ritual, and rituals are dangerous. What do we think could happen if this fails, everyone? I personally think that this is going to separate you. I think this is going to be a very early wedge in your group, and there will be an inherent mistrust, I think, there as a result of this, because it's going to look like a very blatant attack. Anyone else got any thoughts about what could happen if this goes wrong?
The only thing that comes to mind is if we're trying to stop this kind of coronation, or whatever's going with the bees, that the patrol that went past here not too long ago be alerted to that.
That's a good one. I like that very much.
I think from Vera's point of view, she wasn't sure who to distrust more before, but now her eyes will be firmly fixed upon Macero.
Yeah, I don't think the stakes are quite high enough for damage to be done, but that could be a side effect possibly. So you've got your dice pool. Roll them up and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. I have a 5 on the dark dice and a 1 on the light.
So 5 being the highest, it is a success, but the 5 being the dark dice means you cannot re-roll this. The dark die of 5 also being higher than your current ruin means that your ruin goes up to 5. Now that is important because it means that you are now eligible to make what's called a reduction roll. You can actually make your ruin go down. We'll get to that when the opportunity arises, but you're probably going to want to do that before you have to face any more ruin or make another risk roll, because one more ruin and you are going to be lost to the forest. But essentially the reduction roll is how this game mechanizes betrayal. You are going to stab one of your other hunters in the back, perhaps literally, perhaps figuratively. I'd like you to tell me what this ritual looks like, how it dissipates this crown, and I'll give you a complication after this is all done.
I think what it looks like is that, again, Misero will cast out her hands like she did before in the previous ritual, and tons of small black spiders will kind of jump from her hands and grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and they will surround you, Vero, and will try to, either with their fangs or with one of their legs, basically make the crown that is forming on your head dissipate.
And I think your complication is that patrol that passed have sensed that as a slight to a royal lineage, I think, and they will remember, and we'll bear that in mind if you ever want to use that ritual again. So, crown gone, uneasy nights spent under the stars which weren't stars and hearing lullabies that weren't lullabies, tired, frayed, the hunters move on, and so passes ring 3. As you move deeper into the Hummingwood, you do occasionally find yourself pausing for more patrols to pass, but your attempts to disguise yourself, to camouflage yourself, seem to be working at this point, seem to be doing the job. And I don't know whether or not that's hubris, but we'll find out, I'm sure. You notice small things as you pass, disturbing things, unusual things. You see layers of fungus growing into the trees that are curiously black and yellow striped. You see globules of amber with animals trapped in them, but not insects, larger animals, squirrels, rabbits. It's half of a deer sticking out of a tree. The front half of this creature has been picked long clean by something, but it died where it was trapped. Slowly, painfully. Is this a fate that awaits you as you delve deeper into the wood? Who can say? As you move further in, you start to see hexagonal forms between the branches, amongst the undergrowth, just here and there. Little bits of hive, beautifully made. And then you reach a tree, large oak, and nearly this entire thing has been taken over by this honeycomb structure. And it's a sight to behold. Whatever made this must have been huge. This isn't part of the sixth form heart, the main hive, but this is this standalone structure. Maybe it was part of it at some point, who knows? But the most disturbing thing about this is not the scale or what it must have taken architecturally or from an intelligence point of view to make such a thing. But it's what's trapped at the bottom. Dressed in the clothes of an amateur apiarist, you could say, is a man. Pale-skinned, sunken features, trapped in this honeycomb. Can't see where his legs are. His arms are clearly broken as the hexagonal forms been built into his upper half. He's alive, which is horrifying, I guess. His breathing is labored, ragged. And as you get closer, you hear him gasping, "Water, water." Vero, you're taking point. What do you do?
Am I able to see him clearly from where I am? Yeah.
Everything I've just described, you've seen.
And can I get to him easily?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to approach him carefully, doing that little dance that I do now. And I'm going to draw a bit of water out of my sack, my traveler's bag, and bring it up to his lips and give him just a little bit at first.
We'll come back to that. Macero, remember me talking about the reduction roll and how that mechanizes betrayal? This may be an opportunity for it. And I'm going to tell you how it works. When you make a reduction roll, you are going to automatically reduce your ruin by 1. You can keep it where it is, but it's unlikely to happen. What happens is you take a dice, you declare your actions and what you intend to do, and then you roll it. If you roll less than your current ruin, no one notices your betrayal. If you roll higher, you've got a choice to make. You can reduce your ruin and be noticed, or you can leave everything where it is and keep your betrayal secret. Now, you've got 2 of your fellow hunters, their backs are turned, they're vulnerable. Do you think this might be a good opportunity for a little subterfuge?
Well, now that you're asking me like that.
And the reason I'm asking you is because if you take 1 more ruin, you're dead.
That's true. Actually, I think at this point I won't do anything to betray my companions. I think Misera will instead just watch what Vero is doing.
Okay. Maradi, what are you doing as Vero is moving closer to this person stuck at the bottom of this tree.
Is there anything else about any creatures, any bees, any sign of life outside of the three of us and this man?
I'll say something. You can hear an incredibly loud hum. And you know what? It seems to be coming from inside that man.
Moradi will take the map and look at it again and try to, based on the patrols we've seen so far, figure out where on that we might be now.
I think that's easy enough to do. I think that you see yourselves not very far from the final ring of this concentric pattern. You are getting closer. You count the amount of patrols that you've already gone past. And if this map is accurate, then you're really close. And there can't be too much further to go. And while you're thinking on that, Vero, you're giving this man some of your water?
Yes, just a little bit at first. See if it brings him around, and perhaps we can find out what's happened.
He drinks thirstily. And perhaps a little too thirstily, kind of leans forward as best as he can. He's kind of still stuck in this structure. And you see his tongue kind of coming out of his mouth as if he's trying to search out more water. And then as you stand back and look, you can see it's not his tongue. It's the tail end of a larval grub that is wriggling in his mouth, forcing its way out. You see the bits of skin that are exposed outside of this hexagonal structure start to pulse with movement, writhing forms beneath the skin. Vero, please roll Ruin.
That was a 6.
Looks like your ruin is on its way up. And it is an upsetting sight. But not as upsetting as the sound that follows. The cracking of this man's ribs as they cave inwards. His eyes roll back into his head. And then they are darkened by tiny insects that cover the lenses of his eyes. And then all of a sudden, he becomes a geyser of bees, insects, as they spew forth from this yawning cavity in his chest. Macero, this could be as good an opportunity as any, because what you're about to see is pretty horrifying. He is still keeping your distance and still not doing anything.
I think once she sees that geyser of bees exploding outward, she will move towards what she's seeing, and she doesn't quite understand why she's doing it, but it just feels right. She will try to push Vero into that geyser.
I love it. Okay, pick yourself up a d6 and roll, please. Your current ruin is 5.
Mm-hmm. I rolled a 5.
So it says, is the die less than your current ruin? And I believe 5 is the same as your current ruin. So you get a choice. Would you like to mark one ruin down? If you do, you must be noticed.
I will do that.
Please do. And Vero, please tell us how you notice this, shall we say, not so subtle heel turn.
Oh, she notices the push. After a moment of perhaps choking on a mouthful of bees, she swings around quickly, gasping for air, and screams in Macero's face. And as she does this, I would like to use a ritual, Sever, where I can detach a body part and control it when it's apart from me. I would like, hopefully, to distract Macero with the screaming, while Vero's arm, her right arm, becomes unknit from her body and sloths off onto the floor beneath her cowl and crawls towards Macero, hopefully unnoticed, and begins to grab her.
So your intention here is, again, we're not going to get into contested roles. So what's your intention that you're trying to do here?
I want to throw her off balance. I want to push her back away from me and hopefully regain a little bit of the command that I had before standing over her.
Okay, this sounds a little like a risk roll. So let's have a look at the dice pool. So you're going to get one dice for any skill you've got that's relevant. What have you got? What do you think you're using here?
Perhaps a bit of balance, a bit of coordination.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense if this is less an attack and more a distraction, more a kind of, trying to regain initiative, I guess. This is a ritual, so you'll also get one dark dice in there. So one light, one dark. What do we think could go wrong if this roll fails? Personally, I think you're going to have to deal with something bigger that's going to come out of that guy's chest. That's what I think. Anyone else got any ideas?
No, I think that in this situation, that seems to be the most likely thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the roll is like, and then perhaps we'll shift it. Now, Devil's Bargains. Now, here's one. I'm going to say, have a light dice if you want, but whatever happens, you do not get your arm back.
Okay, I've got one. In contrast to how you're being treated not so long ago before the spider attack, no matter what happens here, the bees will turn on you. You'll no longer be their monarch, but their enemy.
Cash, have you got anything to add to this awful array of options?
I think that's already pretty strong, both of that.
Megan, which one would you like to accept? Or you don't have to accept either. You can just roll as you are.
Such tasty options. I like them both, but I'm drawn to the idea that this soldier who's long depended on her weapon loses her weapon wielding arm and has to cope with that. So, Matt, I'll take your bargain.
Wonderful. I would get into help rolls here, but given what's going on, I don't think anyone really wants to help. But we can definitely look at that after the dice roll is made. So you should have 2 light die and 1 dark die. Please give them a roll and let us know what happens.
Right. So for light die, have a 3 and a 2, and the dark is a 4.
So it is a success. It does work with a complication. That dark die is not higher than your current ruin. It's equal to your current ruin. So you don't have to mark any additional ruin. But if you want to tell me what this looks like, how this works, also how you know you're never going to see your arm again, and I will think of a complication to weave into this as we go.
Okay, so Vero is screaming her lungs out in the face of Macero, just absolutely enraged at what has happened. And as she's doing this, the hand snakes around one of Macero's legs and pulls down hard. and she goes sprawling backwards onto the floor. And breathing heavily, Vero stands over her. Never do that again. You hear me? And then, slowly gaining some control of herself, as she sees something dark and mysterious out of the underbrush just quickly grab her severed limb and drag it into the underbrush. And she doesn't follow.
Tell me, Vero, with what you've just done and how that went down, given your previous status, your previous role, what do you think Cassian would make of you if he could see you now?
I think for a moment she imagines looking into his eyes again. And at first she sees the love that was always there, the understanding. But slowly and surely it fades, and she finds herself looking into the eyes of a stranger. He doesn't recognize her.
Maradi, if your brother could see you now, do you think he'd be emboldened knowing that you would be returning with something to help break this siege, or would he see a fool, a damn fool, lost in the woods?
Their relationship was more strained of late after Maradi betrayed the Inquisition and inspired their anger. But Maradi thought if he could do this, if he could find a way to save their home from invading forces, then all will be right again. That they could go back to the way things were when they ran this place together. And he looks at himself sticky with honey, with the people he was traveling around here with, turning on each other, with monsters bursting out of trees. And the realization just waves over him that this was never going to happen. This was a fool's errand. And his brother's impression of him would never recover. And he can scarcely stay standing as he realizes this.
Amazing, thank you. Macero, we haven't really talked much about why you're here, but your drive is to find the artifact that proves the king's true nature. Now, I don't know who this king is, but what artifact could possibly be worth this much trouble?
I don't think that Misero is looking for an artifact, so to speak. I think she's more looking for an understanding somewhat, an understanding of what has happened in her past. And the idea that she's looking for is what has made her do what she did, and what lies within her own true nature. So I think in a more metaphorical kind of sense, she's not so much looking for an artifact that proves the king's true nature, but rather the queen's true nature. And I think that drive has brought her all this way here, but without realizing that she actually may not even have wanted to know what her true nature was. So now that she has understood, she doesn't really have a drive anymore. She doesn't have anything that keeps her going. And now as she kind of cowers where Vero has pushed her back to, she's faced with the understanding that she truly is the monster that she didn't really want to be, that she never wanted to believe she was. And at this moment, she will also understand that the last thing that Latro, her husband, saw was this monster. And I will leave it at that.
That's quite the revelation and realization to come to. It certainly explains why you took such umbrage at the coronation of a new queen, I guess. Also, I think spiritually that's quite rough, so I'm going to ask you to roll ruin.
Let's go. So 1 singular die, right? And I have 4 in ruin, so let's see. I rolled a 6.
Well, that's something, isn't it? Back up to 5 you go. And I've got a couple of conditions to hand out, I think. I owe Vero one, and I certainly owe you one. The one I will give to Vero is very simple. You've spent this time trying to disguise yourself to make yourself look like one of these things. You're convinced that's what kept you safe at night. But now there's this nagging thing in the back of your head, and it's a desire to tell the bees everything. You want to communicate this group's plans to the bees. You are not now betraying your fellow hunters. You are doing the work of the bees. You are trying to be accepted as one of them by acting in the hive's interest, in the queen's interest. There is only one true queen, after all. We know it's not you. And we're pretty sure it's not Macero. There's only one queen you all serve. And you're going to see it done. And Macero. I think Maradi's got the map out. And he's trying to tell you something. And what Maradi is trying to tell you is an odd detail that he hadn't noticed about the map previously, that on the back of this map, there is a very crude drawing of a person, and they are leading bees as if they're on leashes. And these bees are bigger than the dog-sized bees you saw. These are like gorilla-sized bees. Very powerful things. Maybe you just missed it at first thinking it was too ridiculous, but now it's very clear what it is. And he's trying to tell you this, but you can't really understand what he's saying because every time his lips move, all you hear is buzzing. You are struggling to hear human sounds, and it's not the hum of the woods that's drowning it out. That's just what Maradi sounds like to you. Now, I'm not saying that the hum is gone, because it is still there. It's still very, very loud. But there's also something with this. I think you all in some way have connected with what's at work here. You've connected with these creatures and the hive and the hive mind, essentially. And I think that last patrol that passed, I think I said they were going to circle back on you and they were going to pick you up again. And even more so now they've got a spy in their midst. So there's something that becomes obvious to all of you, and that is in the heat and in the humidity of this place, the sweat that is pouring off you, the stench of that is marking you all as outsiders to the bees. Given that this hive is driven by pheromones, you will be very easily seen. What way does each of you go about disguising your scent given the environment? Using the environment, sorry. Anyone who's ready can go.
Moradi looks around at the trees, the undergrowth, the plant life that's around here, and sees if he can find anything, any sap or leaves or bark or anything that he thinks might give off a scent, a stronger scent, if it were burned. And when he finds something that fits, he just thinks at least fits that description, he grabs bundles of it and stuffs it into the brazier that he took earlier. And he stops himself before he goes to light it and tries to think if there was something particular he was supposed to do with these things. He knows he's used one before, but he can scarcely remember at this point. But at some stage decides it's not worth thinking about anymore and just goes to light it.
In amongst the undergrowth, whilst you are scrabbling for something to mask your scent, Vero, you see a relatively recently killed fawn. Its guts might make an interesting distraction. The bees and things wouldn't be interested in raw meats, offal. Is that something you'd consider?
Why not? Treat yourself. I think with her left hand, of course, she's going to bend down and begin to scoop some of the entrails into her hand and take a sniff and start to rub it on her skin so that the oils ooze and saturate.
Please roll ruin.
That is a 6.
Who'd have thought that would backfire?
Mm.
Remember, you are now at 5 ruin, so that is a perfect opportunity to make a reduction roll whenever you see an opportunity. Okay, Macero. How are you throwing the bees off the scent?
So, maybe a question. In the beginning of our adventure, I found a little vial that contained a blue liquid, which I identified as anti-venom, right?
Correct, yeah.
If I take that out, well, trying to do it without the other two noticing, can I make out if it has any distinct smell?
It's got a very chemically smell.
With that, I think that Misera will take a little bit of that, what she believes to be anti-venom, and dab it like a perfume on her body.
Wonderful. I love this party's attitude. Anything that could save your life, let's dab it on as perfume. Absolutely fantastic. Well done. Thank you, everyone. You press on, brazier lit, covered in offal, smelling of the chemical substance that could well be the only thing that saves your life, marching towards an ominous fate. One such omen you see is as you pass a tree, it's got it's got sap oozing down. There's something stuck in it, and it's a human hand. It's pointing back in the direction that you came, as if to warn you away from where you're about to go, but you are still following. the map as best you can, and also you pick up another trail, the trail of golden footprints. The king of the forest has been this way. They still glisten in what light there is. And before long, you find yourself where you need to be. You see towering above the tree line the irregular dome of the sixth form heart. And so passes ring 4. Okay. We've made it. We have made it to the sixth form heart, this gargantuan structure at the heart of the Humming Woods. And it's huge, it's palace-sized. All the intricate chambers inside must be so elaborate, this warren of honeycomb, easily big enough to house hundreds, if not thousands of people. Maradi, earlier you thought that your brother would think you foolish for this endeavor. What would you think now, knowing that you made it?
There's a part of Maradi which wants him to believe that Antos would be a little bit impressed. Maybe that's true to some extent. There'd be a moment there where he would hear that this has happened and think, nice going. But that would be short-lived, I think. The reality is that his brother never would have, if his brother knew, even vaguely knew that he had been wanting to do this, he never would have done anything to have stopped him. And Maradi knows that. He has come to terms with that very, at this point, having to come to terms with that, because no matter how much might try to convince himself, he knows that this was never the way to do this. Never a good idea.
Thank you, Macero. What do you think the inner workings of the sixth form heart would have to say about the Queen's true nature? Your true nature?
I think while arriving here at the end stage, Misera will realize that there was no way to outrun her true nature, and there was no way to bury it for her deep somewhere in her thoughts. And with that realization, I think she will somehow try to come to peace with the fact that she was the one at fault for losing her husband, or rather for ending his life. And standing here in front of this structure will make her realize that there was most likely no way for her to have outrun her fate in a way.
Yeah, you're looking at your fate, and it's looking right back at you. Vero, now you're here, do you think you'll see Cormoran's wheel again?
It seems unlikely. To some extent, maybe it was always unlikely, but she really feels it now. Just like the hum that surrounds them in the forest, it's slowly penetrating her body down to the bones, filling her mind. She's not going to see the wheel, and she's not going to see Cass again.
And that hum is oppressive. And like Barrow said, penetrating. You can feel it in your souls now. It's so insistent. Barrow can hear the hive. You want to tell them that you're all here, or that these two usurpers are here and you're one of them, here to claim your bounty. Now, despite the fact that the majesty of this hive is so impressive, and perhaps faced with it, it's easy to feel like this last hurdle might be insurmountable. But you guys have got really lucky, because on the side of the hive that you face is in the side of the wall, there is a deep gouge, a big crack, easily enough for one of you to fit in, or at least one at a time. But it's narrow. I think, Maradi, you're not going to fit the coffin in there. Might be something you have to leave behind. But you can make it. And you can see a familiar set of footsteps leading up to this gouge, which tells you exactly who left it. Now, the king of the forest has been to the sixth form heart, has been to the hive, has tasted the royal jelly. Now it's your chance. But there's a few obstacles in the way first. You quietly sit and watch a patrol of bees go by, the mastiff-sized bees. And you have a moment in which you can close the distance between you and the hive and reach that hole in the wall, but there's something else there. Remember that picture on the back of the map of the gorilla-sized bees? Well, two of those are standing on either side of this hole in the wall. And they're going to be the final obstacle you need to get through before you can reach the hive. What do you do?
Maradi will turn to Vera Macero and say, if either of you have something that you can do to get one of those away or deal with it, I might have something for the other.
I'm not sure I have anything left, but I could try once more to send my children out if you promise to take care of the other.
I will do what I can.
Maradi, it sounds like you're leading on this, and you might have to act first to get the others to trust you. What did you have in mind?
So Maradi is going to skirt around, not directly towards the two of them, but maybe around one side where he'll be much closer to one than the other, hoping that he would only catch the one's attention. And he's going to just stay there for a moment and try and just look straight at it and see if he can't catch its gaze. And when he does, he hefts this great black coffin off his back and plants the bottom of it in the ground. And he reaches round and unclasps from one side and opens the door. And where you might expect to see perhaps bones or a body or even just the wooden insides of the coffin, you see nothing. An inky void. And Maradi reaches his mind to this bee and calls to it, gestures for it to come towards the coffin. And he's going to use the ritual hollow.
Want to tell us what that does?
Hollow can push a spirit out of a body.
I love where this is going. This is metal as hell. I like it so much. So what's your intended aim here? What are you trying to do with this ritual? It's going to be a risk roll. Also, the pair of you, everyone else, maybe think about a betrayal at this point. Want to tell us what your intention is for this and what you're trying to do, and we'll figure out the dice.
The intention is that he will lure this creature close enough to him that when he slams the lid of the coffin shut, its spirit will be pulled into the void and lost forever, leaving behind a husk.
I like that very much. So we'll have a white dice for rituals, I guess, is the skill you're calling upon there. I mean, any of the others could work, I think, but rituals makes the most sense. So that's one white dice. One dark dice goes in the pool for it being a ritual and it being very dangerous. What do we think that could go wrong here, everyone? I think the stakes are pretty obvious. I think that the bees will not be drawn to the coffin as much as they are drawn towards Maradi, I think. If anyone's got anything to build on that, then I'll be happy to entertain it. No, I mean, the stakes are obvious. Devil's Bargains. I've got a juicy tidbit, if you'll be interested. I think no matter what happens, whatever you open in the coffin will be a two-way street. And a spirit will enter the world through your coffin, as well as pulling whatever is on the spirit on the other side into the void. Remember, not everyone else has to offer a devil's bargain.
I think I have one, but I'm not quite sure how to phrase it. I think whatever. So what could happen is that part of Muradi's soul or spirit will also leave his own body. But of course, it cannot be the whole spirit. So it must be maybe like a manifest feeling or just like a piece of your spirit, basically.
Or I mean, possibly swap spirit with the bees. You become part bee in spirit. I mean, you can refuse them both, or you can take either, or you can tweak any that you fancy.
I'm definitely going to take one of these. I quite liked the idea that part of Maradi will get pulled in as well. There's a reason the Inquisition was not happy that he was doing this after all.
Very good, I like that. Okay, so by my reckoning, that's 2 light dice and 1 dark dice. Please roll it up and let's see how this goes.
That's a 3 on one of the light dice, so I can re-roll by adding another dark one if I wish. Right.
What's on the dark dice?
A 1.
So, hang on, you had 2 white dice and 1 dark dice. What did you roll?
I rolled 3 and a 2 on the light and a 1 on the dark.
Yeah, if you want to add a dark dice, you can keep going.
At this point, I feel like it's worth doing. Okay, so I got 6s on both light dice and a 3 and a 2 on the 2 dark ones.
I mean, you could keep rolling, but why would you? Wonderful. Boxcars bails you out. I'd like you to tell us exactly how this goes down, and I would like, whilst this is happening, Macero and Vero to perhaps think about ways to use this to their advantage. What I will say, Maradi, is just to add to how well this goes, I think this will account for both bees.
Okay. So, to some extent, what exactly Maradi was trying to do happens here. The bees are lured over, like as you said, more to him as an intruder than the void in the coffin, but as you can feel them closing in, he does it. He snaps the coffin shut, and their spirits are wrenched from their bodies, you can see them shaking and unnaturally moving as this feeling ruptures through their bodies. But Muradi can feel something changing as well. A haze lifts from his mind. For days, he's been unsure of what's been happening, what's happened from his past. He sees a scene of himself scrambling on a castle wall with giant flowers falling over the battlements and petals resting on the walls. And it begins to lift and return as it once was in his true memory. And he sees himself sink to his knees and look down at the lifeless body of his brother Anders. He realizes what he had forgotten, that this memory was of the day his brother died. And all of this has been for naught.
Very good. Very, very good indeed. Thank you. Now we've got ourselves a little break here because Muradi rolled so well, drew the guards away. Any one of you could make it to the hole in the wall. What are Vero and Misero doing?
As the coffin snaps shut, Vero has been slowly dancing her way to flank Misero, and she reaches a hand behind herself and snaps the stinger that she had adorned herself with from her clothing, takes it in her good hand, and is going to try and come up behind Misero and jab her with it.
Well, well, well. Looks like we've got ourselves a bit of PvP. We're going to make a contest roll now, everyone. I'll read this off. Muradi, I imagine you're not participating in this. You're happy to see this fight go on between the two, and perhaps see how it shakes out. So the two of you, Misero and Vero, when treasure hunters act against each other, you must agree what is at stake. I think what's at stake here is being the first to enter the heart. And are we saying that's to the death?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad we're all in agreement. Right, ready to grab your light dice, people. So you can get one light dice if you have a skill or a piece of equipment that might help you in this contest. I think, even though you have the requisite skills, Vero, the stinger I think is really fun to base this around. What skills do you have, Misero?
I think the only one that I could see fitting would be patience that Misero showed while watching on what Muradi was planning to do and successfully managed to do, because she was getting ready to cast her own ritual but was patiently waiting to see when to act. And maybe with this patience she can kind of sense that something is going on behind her.
Yeah, I like the idea that perhaps you're waiting for Vero to act first to make that first move and then being ready. Right, secondly, you're going to take one light dice each for every mark of ruin that you currently have. And so by my reckoning, you should all have 6 light dice, the pair of you. This is when it becomes a real fistful of dice business. And now, we get into a bit of bluffing and bidding. Starting with Vero, because you're the person who initiated this. Would you like to bid how many dark die you're going to add to the pool? And you'll basically keep adding die until one of you stops. And why would you want more die in this pool? Well, for every 6 that you roll, whoever rolls the most 6s out in this contest wins the contest. If it's tied, then it's 5s, then it's 4s, until a winner is determined. However, for every 1 that you roll on a dark die, you mark a ruin. So any 1 on a dark die will see you lost to the forest. Now, currently, you're even Stevens, odds-wise. Vero, what's your bid?
Oh, she really wants this. She's so close now. She's going to put 2 in.
Macero, what's your bid?
I think Macero at this point has tried to outrun her fate for a very long time, even though she may not have known what she was doing. And I think she will raise you 4.
Vero is raised 4. Would you like to keep adding dark dice?
Oh, go on. 5.
Any advances on 5, Macero, or would you like to stop?
Yes.
What would you like to add?
Can I add the exact same number of dice that I have in light dice as well? So could I
You
roll?
can add as many as you want.
Okay. Then I'll say 6.
Okay, are you going to see? Are you going to raise, Vero? Because this is this is getting down to it now.
I'm going to hold it 6.
Okay, so we have, by my reckoning, Vero is rolling 6 light, 6 dark, and also the same Macero. Is that right?
Macero's, if I understood correctly, I raised the 6 dark.
Yeah.
And I think yours was 5, right?
Yeah. Are you matching up to 6, Vero, or are you stopping at 5? Yeah. So 6 of each color each. Right. Roll the dice. Look for 6s and then look for dark 1s.
All right. I don't have enough dice, so I think I will. Can I roll like a batch of dice? Say this is my 6 light ones and then 6 dark ones after?
Of course you can.
Yeah, okay. So my light dice first. I have 1, 1, 1, a 2, a 4, 5 5s, and a 6. So there's a 1 there, but it's the light dice.
It's light.
This
So you
is
got 1 6.
1 6. Yeah.
Okay. So now roll your dark dice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how many 5s did you get? Sorry, 1.
2 5s.
2 5s. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, now the set of dark dice. There's 1 1 and 1 6.
Okay, so you've got a total of 2 6s
Mhm.
and a dark 1. Right then, Vero, what'll it be?
Well, with my light dice, I have 1 6. With my dark, no 1s, but no 6s either.
So, it looks like Macero wins this fight, but we'll move you to epilogue shortly. Please, would you describe how you get the best of Vero, this trained soldier, who did lose their fighting arm, but how you got the best of them using your patience, your guile, and what your next move is?
So what I envision is that as Vero creeps up behind me with the stinger in her hand, You might kind of lance it towards me, and instead of actually touching my body, my physical body with it, you kind of lash through the cape, the veil that has covered my body, and rip it off. And what, it reveals is the old, leathery, dark body of a woman whose age you cannot tell. And despite this age, she moves in a very quick, almost scattering motion towards that, that rip in the wall. And she doesn't even acknowledge that you tried to take her life. She just runs for it and tries to leave you two behind her. But I don't know. I think as she also rolled a 1, I'm not sure. I feel like something should happen to her as well, right?
Absolutely. You are lost to the forest. I will find a moment to make that happen. But you've gone into the hive. Is that what we're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wonderful stuff. So Vero, you're left on the ground by this. You're definitely going to be the last person into the hive if you make it, because Maradi is right there. Maradi, you just witnessed something relatively disturbing. And also you've had a bit of a soul transference recently. You roll ruin for me, please.
Absolutely. That was a 2.
You seem to hold steady, stay firm in the face of this endless cavalcade of bizarre instances that you've been through. Do you enter the sixth form heart?
Maradi is sunk to his knees and is just has his head in his hands and is struggling to accept what he's just seen. And almost as if a switch has been flicked, straightens up and leans back. Then he stands. He drops the brazier. He drops the chain attached to the coffin. He undoes the clasp over his robe and pulls it and throws it back. And without a second look, runs straight for the opening in the hive.
Vero, see small bees on the outside of the hive working frantically to repair the damage. You enter.
She does, but it takes almost all of her strength. Pull herself closer, one arm dragging herself bodily towards it. But she does.
Inside the heart, it's narrow, it's cramped, it's claustrophobic. Honeycomb everywhere. The closer to a hive that a bee is, the drowsier they behave. But that doesn't stop mandibles shooting out from these holes, snapping at you as you pass. Macero, disorientated, perhaps weakened by the contest, the fight to get inside, besting a trained soldier, taking it out of you. You find yourself turned around. You find yourself lost in the chamber. There seemed to be only one way into the center, but somehow you've drifted off of that, found yourself somewhere else in these capillaries of the heart. You're following a familiar voice. It's your husband's voice. What's he saying to call you home?
I think I hear him say one singular sentence. And what he says is, I forgive you. And I think I follow that voice into the darkness. And Misero sees as a webbed cocoon slowly closes around her until there's no light anymore.
So passes Misero, treasure hunter, exploiter of the sixth form heart. Next, Muradi, shuffling down this narrow corridor. You can see the turn that Misero took. You won't make that mistake. You are focused on your goal. But you realize one thing, that if you do make it to the heart, there's only one way out, which is the exact way you came. And you're going to have to go through Vero if you do. Can I ask what you're more interested in? Is it the queen or is it the jelly?
Marty came on this adventure convinced that capturing this queen would solve his problems. But with his memories being hazed over and finally become clear, it's not a priority for him anymore. All he wants is to sate that craving he has for something sweet, and if it's something that can extend his life unnaturally, all the better. He looks for the jelly ravenously.
Vero. You've lost sight of Muradi up ahead as fist-sized bees swarm all around you. You tell them your secrets, you tell them what you've all been planning this whole time, but they're not interested. They know you're a usurper, an imposter. How do you try and convince them otherwise and press on to the center of the heart?
I think the time for talking is over. She doesn't have much left to give. She's going to throw herself into this fight with the last breaths she has and the last ounce of strength that she can muster.
And I think as the bees fill the corridor, that is the only way that you are going to be able to make it any further. You've still got your lance on you, but you're kind of using it in a confined space, trying to get your way through. I think let's make a risk roll, everyone. You're trying to just force your way through to the heart. That's the goal. In terms of stakes, I think it's pretty obvious. If you fail, you are going to be consumed by the bees and become part of the hive. So are you going to be using tactics, or I don't think precision works at this point because it's a little...
No, unless it's navigating this narrow, confined space, perhaps.
So one light dice for your background, definitely a dark dice for putting your body on the line. Anyone got some devil's bargains?
I've got one. No matter what happens in this crush as you try to get through this corridor, even if you make it through and past the bees, one of them is going to sting you.
If only someone had some anti-venom. I think that no matter what happens, you're not leaving the hive. Any advances, Cash? Any ideas?
No, I can't up those, I don't think.
Okay, choose to accept one or none of those.
Oh, she's not leaving the hive.
Very good. 2 light die and 1 dark. Roll them up.
That's a 4 and the 1 on a light, and a 1 on the dark.
So you do manage to fight your way through. You cut your way through this wall of bees, but you can feel them biting you, stinging you. You feel punch drunk, lightheaded, confused. Why would any of them do this to you? You've been helping them all this time. And delirious with the venom, you find yourself staggering into the central chamber of the heart. You did make it through. You did fight your way through these bees. But the last thing you see before you die is Maradi stood ahead of you, facing down the mother of millions. And we'll move you to epilogue. Maradi, you made it. There is, in the center of this chamber, which is silent, just totally silent, like a deadened room, there is like a baptismal font, and it is full of the royal jelly, which is this kind of, it's golden, but it's also kind of milky, and it's mercurial. It seems to shift when you look at it, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You are drawn to it by impulse. There's no other bees in here, but there is one sitting on the font, circling the rim. Is the mother of millions, and she's small, like a hummingbird, delicate, almost silvery gold, a little iridescent. You could take her. You could take all the honey you want. No one can stop you. What do you do?
Maradi walks slowly up to the font, taking in the room around him briefly, but then focuses back on the surface of the jelly. And he kneels by the font and just watches the Mother of Millions circling around the rim a few times. And he reaches out, and there's a moment where it looks like he might try and close his hand around the mother. He reaches straight into the font and straight into the surface of the liquid and starts just trying to shovel it into his mouth if he can at all. Just, he needs to taste it. He has to know.
Wonderful. Thank you. We are now going to move on to our treasure hunters, our dear treasure hunters, and their epilogues. Vero, tell us what the world is like without you in it.
The world, much like that damn wheel, just keeps turning on without her. In fact, some intrepid travelers, if they were to travel there now, in her absence, might stumble across a rather distinguished gentleman, a bit older than Vero would remember him, but she'd remember him. He stands, his hands on his hips, looking at the great wheel that he's always wanted to see. And then he turns to the companion that he's come with and wraps a arm around her waist and looks at her with those eyes that used to look at Vero. And says, "So glad I'm here with you."
Wonderful. Thank you. Nacero, please share with us your epitaph.
There's no one that actively misses Misero, no one that remembers her, but there is a sort of memorabilia of her. A house, a wooden house somewhere in another forest. A lonely house that is covered in every corner by spider webs. And the door of the house stands open and kind of squeaks with every wind that passes by. And every now and then, there are a few little movements of black spiders crawling from corner to corner. And we see now a group of adventurers that walk onto the field in the forest on which this house stands. And they kind of examine this old house and wonder who could have once lived there. And their conclusion is that it most likely could have been a sorcerer of some kind, because who else would live in an abandoned house in a forest?
Thank you very much, Muradi. Muradi. You made it to the heart. Triumphant. You got your prize. Tell us how it ends for you.
When Muradi finally gets his faculties back, pain in the stomach is the first thing he feels. How much of this stuff could he possibly have eaten? But he stops himself. He takes that sack he'd been traveling with to haul his treasure, stuffs as much of it in there as he could, seals it up, and hefts it. He's used to carrying heavy things over his shoulder, of course. The path out of the hive is a difficult one. There's these enormous bees everywhere trying to stop him, stinging him and knocking him down. But every time he takes a wound like this, he reaches into the bag, takes another bit of the jelly, and keeps on moving. He passes outwards and outwards. The only thing he kept from all of his old equipment that he had with him was that map, you see. He has more or less a safe route out of the outer rings. Sometime later, a few people standing on the outskirts of the forest thinking about trekking in will see an old, gaunt man wearing naught but torn rags and seeming to be covered in some kind of sticky substance. Trudge out, doesn't pay them any mind and just keeps on moving. Sometime later still, we see the same man walking up a hill, finally returning to the castle that sits atop it. Only a castle, a fortress he does not find, only a ruin. The walls collapsed, the landscape around it scorched, and not a single soul left to find there.
One way or another, the forest has claimed some more hunters, as it always will, and so ends a warm and pleasant hum.